Hi, welcome to Mr. P's ceramics class. Today I'm going to show you how to make a simple coil pot, okay? Coil pots are a great way of working with the hand building process. American Indian ceramics is primarily done with coil pots. They don't even use the potter's wheel, okay? The way to start is making the coil to begin with, okay? And I'm going to take a little bit of clay in my hand and I'm going to make kind of like pre-roll a log in between my hands, and I need some space in front of me to work. Don't have, a lot of clutter around you and you're working very small here. I want some table space to move my hands back and forth when I make the coil. So basically from my fingertips to the ends of my palm, I start rolling rapidly and I start making the coil, and it becomes like a snake. Even with one hand, once it goes, I can move my hand across the table and the coil keeps moving and rolling. I stop when I get to the thickness of my finger. You can always aesthetically make thinner coils, but initially just the thickness of your finger is great. To make any basic kind of form, you need about 8 to 15 coils. You can see here I've made a couple already, but a couple things to show you in case you run into a problem. So I'm rolling them out by hand right now just to show you. Is when I start rolling, sometimes I might press too hard and I get that kind of like flat sound, flat kind of coil going, and the coil is an oval. So what I do is I just tap it down on the top and then start again. Like I said, the key is using the full length of your hands, okay? If I just go back and forth like this, I'm gonna start squishing it. Or another thing that students do is they focus too much on one part of the coil like this, and see how that's so skinny and this is now kind of thick, okay? So keep even pressure throughout the whole coil. Use the full length of your hands from the tips to your palms, and I go from the center and then I work outward toward the ends. And now where it's kind of thicker, I roll it out a little bit more and kind of get it level and even. And I'm set about there. So I have now 2, 4, I have about 10 coils. I'm going to make a small piece and just to show you how to attach them, okay? To get the base, I can just tear off a little bit of clay and I'm going to just pack it together. I'm going to make like a dollar size kind of bottom. The larger base that you would make, you would end up making a larger coil piece. I could certainly, and I'm going to put it also on a disc and on a banding wheel. And that allows it to spin around and I can move it more freely, okay? I could cut out the shape into any kind of form. If I cut it out into like a diamond shape, then when I started attaching the coils, I'll get that form. Or if I cut out the base in the shape of a pentagon or an octagon, I could start getting that shape, a 4-leaf clover. So this is just though for a basic coil pot, kind of Greek style. And it's just going to be roundish. So again, maybe about a dollar-sized pancake. I set that on the bottom, and I take my first coil. I am right-handed. Again, always use your dominant hand. And you'll see that I just start placing the coil with my left hand, okay? And that starts placing it, onto the clay disc, okay? Don't just kind of freehand that. You don't have control. So with my right hand, I'm using my left hand to kind of pre-guide the coil. And easy enough, where one coil ends, the next coil begins. So right, we're there. And now, again, I'm kind of pinching the coil along, helping it kind of guide it into place with my left hand, okay? And as I go up 3 or 4 coils, I stop and I'm going to blend the coils. If I don't, this is going to be like a slinky and just going to unravel. And so, like the pinch pot, I use my one hand, my left hand on the outside to support, and I use my finger and I blend down. And by blending downwards, that is going to blend the coils and it's about maybe 30% of the coils, that's going to stick it together. I don't go upwards because if I do that, the coils will tear apart. So I go downwards, and I use my left hand again as a backboard to protect, to keep the walls from flaring out. And now that's secure. I can always go back, and I can always adjust the shape, okay? So now where one ends, now maybe I want it to start flaring out. So what I do, the next one begins, the next coil. So if I want it to start flaring out, I start letting the coils guide around, and I set each coil successively slightly on the outside edge of the previous coil. And by doing that, you can see now I'm starting to get more of a bowl shape where one ends, the next one begins, and again, I'm kind of using my left hand to kind of guide it into shape. And now I'm going to, again, use my left hand to support, and I'm coming down with my right hand, and I'm blending those coils, okay? And that's keeping them attached, so I don't need to use slip for any of this process, okay? And again, after I do that, it distorts the shape a little bit, so I can look at it and kind of aesthetically just reshape it back to the way I want, okay? If I want to close off the form, now I'm going to rest each coil successively on the inside edge, okay? And by doing that, you can see that I can quickly close this shape off, okay? And I can close that form down like that. And so by just setting each coil successively on the inside edge, the piece then closes off, okay? And I can create like a shoulder here on the form, okay? Again, I'm kind of reshaping it a little bit. I have a couple aesthetic choices. This is a little bit more difficult on the shoulder to blend. What I would do is use almost more my thumb to blend down to get inside there, okay? And that also, versus trying to use my index finger. So I'm using my thumb, okay? And as I press down, notice how it's really, again, critical that my left hand is there as a backboard to support it, okay? And now it gets a little distorted, and now I'm shaping it out a little bit, okay? I'm going to finish this piece by now just coming straight up, okay? So where one coil ends, the next coil begins, and I'll use these last two coils, and I'll just come straight up and let the lip rather, just flare out ever so slightly, okay? And I'm not going to just stop the pot right like that because it makes it look cut off. So I'm going to kind of blend that top coil into the top lip edge like that. And that helps level it off. You can also blend the outside. Okay, I've been doing the inside, but again, as an aesthetic choice, I could come down with my finger, and by blending down, this gives it a kind of a nice visual quality. It reminds me of like a frosted cake, and has that thick quality to it. The thing that I really like with coil construction is the glaze will really go into these recessed areas or on the top edges here and break, and then you'll really get the color goes thick and thin, and you get some really nice effects. Like our pinch pot, I can just gently tap this upside down to even out the lip. I'm going to flare out the lip just a little bit like that. I've talked about before in other demos that I think the lip, when it's flared out just ever so slightly, gives it more of an elegant look, kind of more of a traditional kind of pottery look. Be careful if you make coil pots too tall in one shot, the coils will collapse on you because the clay is way too soft. So here I'm now just like the pinch pot, using my hand to smooth out, to push out, even out the shape, okay? And one final thing that I can do is with my wood tool, I can hold it like a pencil, and I use the sharp point, and I'll press that. This is what's nice on the banding wheel. I'll let that go into the groove of the coil, and I just spin the banding wheel around, and I let the wood tool just keep moving into that groove, and you get this nice kind of line. It helps blend the clay on the outside, and it also gives a nice, stronger, decorative line to the coil pot. The other thing I do too is where one coil, when one ended and the next one began, I'll blend that slightly with my finger and then continue on with the groove, and that makes the coil look like it's kind of infinity, and you don't know really where one coil started and where one coil ended. So again, I can kind of shape this around down the road with slip or just by blending. I'm going to just roll out a coil again very quickly, and I'm going to flip it right find the middle spot and twist this handle. So it's kind of like a taffy, a little licorice whip, a little bit tighter there. And because it's soft clay, since I made this right from the get-go, it's still really soft, and so I don't need to use slip. So I'm just going to find the halfway mark, and I'm just going to put this on and kind of press it into the clay. If it was leather hard, I would definitely use slip, but here it's soft, and I'm then just going to use my wood tool and just blend it in a little bit just to make it nice. So I don't want it to pop off in the firing. And I'm going to come over on this side, a little bit of blending. And handles also help accentuate the piece, accentuate the form. I could put a foot ring on it later on. That I definitely at that point would need to use slip because I need to let this stiffen up. And I can go back, kind of shape it out a little bit, and there, it really makes like a nice little vase form there. Coil construction is great, and thank you so much.